And could you roll call, please?
Mike Service.
Here.
Chance, I don't see on virtually, I don't believe he's here. Gary Ziegler.
Here.
Debbie Bongard. Here. Jared Wells is absent tonight. Larry Enlow.
Here.
And Melissa Francois is also absent, but you do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. And here we have the public participation allows citizens to be heard on any agenda and non-agenda item. The public may also comment during the public participation section of each item. The planning commission shall make no decisions or consideration of action of citizen comments for items not on the agenda, except to refer the matter to the village staff for administrative consideration or to schedule the matter for planning commission consideration at a later date. And as a reminder, when you make your comments, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes, please.
I have,
Do you have a list there?
I have a list tonight. I have Cody on the list first.
I really want to go first, Dan.
Says the air quality could be unhealthy for sensitive groups, like people with asthma. The advisory goes to 11 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow will be 2 years since a Sauk County teenager went missing. James Jablonski left his home early in the morning. And driving off in his father's.
These in Green County, the GIS, everything's done. We're just waiting on paperwork review.
So why didn't Exeter get paperwork?
That's have to ask the DOA.
Okay. Trina Rupert.
So since there isn't a public thing for the Badger Trails, we're kind of just jumping on this one. I live on 64th Street, which is right on the perimeter of the Badger Trail subdivision. And I just wanted to start with just to thank you guys and acknowledge that you guys did help us get some of the concessions that we had asked for the trails. I think that's really great. I think it's a good starting point. I must say I'm still pretty disappointed at the density. I was hoping it would be more like it would be over in Cosgrove, less houses. I know we've stressed a lot about our concerns in regard to the density for things like traffic and safety. And I sure got the impression after reading through the paperwork that things are probably going to get pushed along on this. So I'd like to just maybe do a couple of asks of you guys. I think it's highly important that you guys commit to working with the DOT and the DNR to be able to get that trail access across Badger Trails so that eventually at some point we can get all of that traffic off of our streets and more onto a highway. Also would like to ask that for future stuff, I had heard that the Badger Trails is going to be chunked off into 6 different parts, and that each one of the parts has to have a new plat approved. I would like to ask that we continue the public participation on that and make sure that even just on the Badger Trails, but on any of the future developments in the village, that we continue that public stuff. I think we did a lot of good talking to you guys. I think you guys did a lot of good for us, and I would really like to be able to continue that. My third point is I'm really hoping, I know that at least the committee has seen the presentation on the conservancy approach to doing developments. And I think maybe not obviously for our Badger Trails division, but for the other subdivisions that are up and coming, I think that's a really good way to move forward. And I did my homework too, Judy. So I did a little nerdy stuff. And I think that the conservancy approach really does help with our village mission, vision, and our strategic plan. Our vision is to preserve and enhance our quote, beautiful village, to have lovely, unique developments. Our mission is to include promoting environmental sustainability. And one of the focus areas in the strategic plan is to have a safe and welcoming neighborhood that are aesthetically unique. I think all of those things really play into the conservancy view. And I think it would help maintain our small town feel while still doing the growth that we need for our area. Thank you very much for your time.
The only one, Anne or Dan, if either of you want to speak.
I'm gonna be real brief. Those, I can't blame Gabe. He's really given a huge try. He's trying to marry everybody together and trying to broker a deal. We did get some of the things we wanted. I'm still underwhelmed. The design is really basic square blocks, stacking as many houses as possible. And the traffic going in and out of there is really a concern to the people that live there. Now, it won't bother us not being greedy. And I really think that they could back off on that. I agree with Trina in that, getting over the CC would really defuse this whole situation. I'm told by Gabe that it takes the village to do that. So I would really think a push from the village would be a good idea. Whoever pays for it, I don't know. I think the developer would have to pay for it. Yeah, that's all.
I've got one more, Don Sass. I'm very concerned about the outlets of this subdivision, especially the ones that are going to come out on Sugar Avenue. When Cosgrove built that subdivision, he's barely got the roads to specs. Everybody in the neighborhood now has 3 cars. They park 2 on their driveway and 1 on the street. You come home, you can't even get past a car. You're going to add now 150 cars a day coming back and forth through there. There's a lot of kids on Sugar Avenue. What about the safety of them? The neighbors have already put up signs, slow down, stop. I'm worried that there's going to be a major accident and some kids are going to get killed, especially once the school buses are there again. And they're coming across the street with now another couple hundred cars every single day going out, in and out, in and out, in and out. The street is plowed for shit, excuse that, but it is in the winter. Now you're going to get another 150, 200 cars on that street before the plows can even get out. So now it's going to be a sheer sheet of ice instead of just patches of ice. I think it's going to be a hazard and people need to think about that for the safety of the residents that have been here for a long, long time. Thank you. And Anne wanted to speak as well. So.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the Plan Commission. I want to also thank Gabe for arranging a meeting between Josh Petrie and the designer, Jeff. We finally had a chance to have a conversation and we really appreciated that. We have gone to great lengths to try to differentiate our interests from the interests of the community, in as much as we're sort of in a unique position And we're going to obviously have to have some ongoing dialogue with the village on this front. We focused in the meeting, most of the meeting, on that south side and what that means, what the implications are for us. And came out of that conversation having discussed a couple of options, one of which is viable, the other which is not. So we were disappointed in the outcome of the meeting in as much as, you know, they are not choosing to embrace the conservation-based approach, which is something that I think is really vitally important to a healthy community. The village, I mean, Gabe stepped forward and said that because of this plan over time, the 6-phase sort of development, 6 years, we would have an opportunity to see what the plats were for each of those sections. They would go before the Plan Commission. So our goal is to make sure that we're involved in that process. And I encourage everybody to be involved in the process of their respective area of concern. That said, I will say that the solution that Gabe proffered, which was placement of a stormwater easement on 2 or 3 of the lots that would drain from the subdivision onto our property in the most vulnerable areas, may not be adequate to protecting the wetlands. And this is something that is really important to us. When we shared the outcome of that meeting with Steve Applebaum, who is our expert in the conservation design approach, he had concerns about the nature of the soil. Because it's sandy, it does not matter what direction the land is sloped. Water will infiltrate and move toward the direction of the lowest area on the land as a groundwater element towards our property. So there are competing visions of what science is all about. So what I want to say to the Plan Commission is we will follow the science. We will follow the permitting process. We will follow what the DNR and the MSA engineers come up with and see if we can understand what of the scientific grounding is for the safest option for protecting the wetland. So, and, you know, we'll hold the village accountable for its effectiveness. And I think Gabe is okay with that. So it took 40 years for Dan to buy and restore this land to its currently healthy state. Over time, we've had opportunities to add to that land because of the good relationships and shared vision of the neighborhood landowners. So I do have a couple of asks relative to the agenda item on here later. I want to hear from you what is so different about this new still high density plan, which has only 30 fewer lots than the original. That makes the Plan Commission 100% confident that it is safe from a fire, emergency, and traffic perspective, and that when it comes time to have specific areas to be developed, that the adjacent landowners' ideas, anybody in the community, will be taken into consideration and not simply rejected because the developer does not want to accommodate that. So you've spoken a lot and enough, so thank you for the time. And again, I appreciate the position that you're in. And thank you for listening.
Mayor, can I go?
Yep, go for it. Just kidding.
Cody Austin, 22 4th Street. I'd like to thank Mr. Petrie for the concessions he made. We had asked for a buffer. We got a buffer. I want to make sure that within that 20 feet of the buffer, that includes keeping the trees that are kind of along the old fence line that are, I would assume, to be in that buffer zone intact and not to be removed because it's kind of like a nice picturesque view. Plus, they're kind of a nice, for anyone living along there, along the whole east side of the development, it's nice to look at trees and not just, you know, future houses in the back. So I would assume that buffer zone includes all of those trees along the lot line. So I wanted to make sure that was advocated for. And as well as my job moving forward as the forester is in future plannings with developments, I really want to advocate for developing like a point-based system for developers to abide by. So what that means is like I can help develop a point system. Each house that's built has to have a certain amount of points that add up to an arbitrary number, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, whatever it is, where they get more points for shade tree species going in certain parts of the lot particularly like south side of the house, or southwest side or west side, they get more points because eventually those shade trees will grow up and give shade to the homes that are being built. And Alliant Energy or whoever might be the future utility provider will thank us in 30, 40, 50 years from now. It's never really about us, it's about the future. So I know the city of Madison kind of does the same thing with some of their developments. They have a points-based system, and it'd be really nice to kind of work together on that and help shape not only what it's going to look like in the future, but from a sustainability standpoint, be really important for the future generations that are going to live here.
Any other public comments? None. Public participation section. On the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a commission member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as the first item after approval of the consent agenda. We have one item on the list tonight, and we approve the minutes from May 14th, 2025.
I'll move approval of the consent.
Second that.
Should we do a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So we have rezoning application for of 2025-13. Presentation by Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll assume my normal spot here on the end, so. The audience can next see. Right, we're back. So this is the Badger Trails development. I appreciate, the Sullivans, working with their person as to what their vision of what this land could be developed as. It's not the same as my client's vision. So we did make some changes that came out of this meeting a month ago. Specifically, the request was provide a 20-foot buffer to all the neighbors. And so there's a we did have a minimum 20-foot buffer along the entire perimeter all the way around back to this wetland. Then there was a second request of reducing the density. Well, yes, there still is a large amount of the residential high density, which is actually was just recently created by the village to promote, a little bit more compact developments, if you will. But we did adjacent to everybody on the south, we created this purple zone, which is low density village zoning. And then along the east side here, all these blue lots are classified as medium density residential zoning. These guys, they bought like several lots together, but it's in for example, this little block here, there's 5 lots on Park Street here, backing up to 4 lots of the proposed development with the 20-foot buffer in between. And actually, yes, I got here early, so I did walk down along the perimeter. The park guy, everything really along the first 20 feet it includes those trees. It includes, some of the transition zone to where the farm field is right now. Sullivan's, your little park area down here with that 8-sided star and the bench, and like that's all like clearly on your property, south of the property line. I will commit to you that it looks like we need to stake the south property line to have better dialogue with you as to where we're at, where you're at. what I'm seeing from our survey is that really nothing, like all the trees, none of the trees are on my client's property. It's all like their stuff. The field, farming field line kind of meanders along the edge. I'll have our survey crew come out and stake all these kink points. And then we can talk about, you know, where the 20 feet is in relation to what the field is. But suffice to say that, as I walked it from, you know, Greenview all the way down to the bike path, walking on the field and knowing where where we surveyed the tree line, I'm not seeing how we're doing this green space buffer really is probably the first 20 feet of the field that we're just turning back into something not touchable. And then we've got the larger lots on the south. As part of the zoning, we have our detention in the southeast corner, some detention here in the middle. This one would be kind of take water from across the way, filters through the wetland, intercepts the rest of the development, and actually we'd be doing a little bit of work down Greenview to get it past these houses and out into the, there's another detention basin. I think probably 2 more houses down here. So those are the changes we made for the zoning. The green is all open space. Yellow is the high density. Blue medium and focus. So there's next to or abutting any existing residential areas. We down zone as a buffer, a transition, then getting across the street, then we would go back to what we had. So we kind of shifted streets around to accommodate, and that's that.
Yeah. I still wish we could connect that trail in the south with your park. I don't know if that could be done between 2 lots or something that could go out to the cul-de-sac and into the park. Or up along the.
No, we kind of felt like that, you know, we kind of connect into the bike path, but
Yeah,
I mean, without negotiating here in front of 60 people, I mean, I would just say we could look at it. Nope. Let's just leave it there. This is actually somebody mentioned the zoning and the phasing. Really, the first phase is from Greenview and this piece of property in Greenview North is our first phase. Second phase is kind of in the middle down to this street. And then 3, 4, and 5 kind of go from east to west across. Finish out.
Yeah, it is. Anyone on the,
Are we doing public comment? I'm okay with that. And as you're here every meeting that I come to, so.
do planning commission first, right? So. The commission have any questions, comments?
So how many lots are we down to now total?
19.
219.
Well, I'll be honest, this is better than it was.
Not by much.
I still have some concerns about how close all those houses are and, and I do agree that if the village can somehow facilitate getting ingress and egress across the trail, that would be a much better or it's down the road, I think. So,
It does meet. It's compliant with our codes.
Are we still accepting citizen?
Discussing here right now. Access to CC.
yeah,
It could take quite a while with the state. probably be in a later phase of the project by the time that could potentially be worked in. So.
I honestly don't like the high density. I think it should all be low or medium. I like the idea of the conservancy, the conservation part, or this is a load on our infrastructure. Are we ready to handle all this? Like was stated last time, as the grocery store, is everything going to be able to handle all this influx and all of a sudden? It looks like row houses and cookie cutter houses on postage stamps.
Retail type businesses are going to benefit from more people and more people going to them. So I don't see how that is a bad thing for businesses.
I just don't think the neighborhood's going to like that. I don't care for it personally. It should be more medium density. Again, you're going to have kids, you got traffic. Like Chan said last week, these are row houses. One catches fire. By the time we can get our equipment down there, maybe I'm the only one that feels that way. Because I don't feel we need that many houses in that small of an area.
There's a total difference of 4 feet between houses in the low, medium density, and high density. The side yard setback for low density, or for high density is 5 feet. For medium and medium and low density, it's 7 feet. So they're 4 different. So here's what we're talking about.
So I don't like it. I don't like it this way. But I'm one person. We went from what, 248 to 219? It's not a whole lot of a drop in my mind. Yes.
So park acreage, we've got the how many total acres of park?
We've got 13.1 acres of green open space. Based on the number of units, we need 14.6. So it's sort of a partial cost participation per lot for development. And then on top of that is the park development fee per lot. So you'd be doing a partial fee in lieu of, to accommodate some money in the coffers, so to speak, and then also the development fee.
And we're including the 20-foot buffer as park space, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought so. Is that will need to be maintained.
So with your conversation, what you would vote on is not where the streets are, not what the houses look like, just where the colors on that map, do you like where those are? That's the conversation you guys have.
Some comprehensive plan.
Anybody else here got any thoughts on the conservation part of it?
Conservation part's not in our ordinances. And, development is meeting our ordinance requirements. So
We can't request that.
they wish to change their development to accommodate that, is not something we can enforce upon them. Do you have any
So
chance?
my thought was, and I sent Ian some comments, on the staff review as well. It's better. I would be inclined to suggest or say I would like to still see some more of the medium density. You know, kind of ring it, maybe on the side outlot 5, they're going up Brockton. Have those lots between Martin and Burdock be converted to either medium or low density. I don't think it's realistic to do that with any of the internal lots, but the edges still could certainly be a more of a mixed density and keep that core as high density.
But at the same time, you know, you could make the argument that, you know, those, well, I guess if you wanted a smaller lot size like that, you get the benefit of what looks like a giant backyard.
Well, right, but in return, then it
someone
makes,
purchasing it.
right, but then in return, it makes those lower density lots with that backyard all the more premium. And I think also kind of helps maybe maintain some of the aesthetic of that green space. I guess the question would be though, then, if that happens, does that cut into the acreage of that outlot being a park? That's the inverse.
Any other comments before I open up to public comment?
I'll take the public comment and then, excuse me, perhaps have some sort of a, if we can work on some sort of a kind of compromise right here.
Yep. And who are you? What's your address? Could you come up to the podium if you want to speak?
I really appreciate this board. I've come to these meetings back to a long time ago. None of you were probably here then. It's great to see most of your name tags, but it's for everyone in this side of the room, it's exceptionally hard to hear you guys. So what I was just going to ask is if a lot of people are turning their heads and talking to their hands and talking down, if you could also either for future meetings, either have a microphone or something so that we have better ability to hear, because this is probably the largest turnout I've ever seen for a public meeting and personally on some of these issues within various communities. I do have a couple other comments to give later, but I just appreciate you guys being here and participating, and especially like a couple of times when you're talking back and forth. I don't know if there's a way that you could even say your name again so that we can hear who is actually talking, because it's kind of hard. Thank you. And I don't have a problem hearing because I can hear a flea fart from all the way to that. So.
Great. Jeff, do you want to just call on whoever?
Well,
or do you want me to?
Order, but we should, you said your name. I think nobody here could hear what you said. Definitely can hold our design resources. And yes, we should be following Robert's Rules of Order. Yes, the village, and for Belleville takes a little different tactic, and I'm familiar with it enough that we can just go for it. Yeah, because if you were actually at the podium yourself and giving the presentation where that was, anything where everyone could see it, the board could easily turn around and see it. They have a lot, they treat that well. We got 40 or 30. I appreciate that. There's some room over there too if you feel like you want to see better.
Now there's a couple of chairs.
Let's go start down the road.
My name is Judy Botcha.
Stand at the podium.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting yelled at.
That's right, buddy. Careful. Yes, at the last hearing, when we had the public hearing for this property, brought up the fact of safety. Tonight, Don Sass brought up this conversation of traffic. Now, just what I see going on the west side, most families with even young children, and they stay in the village, kids grow up and get driver's license. And it wasn't like in the day when I grew up, kids got one car, maybe. Now kids each get a car of their own, plus mom and dad. So there's 4 cars.
Not gonna work, Gabe.
And those cars get pushed out into the street because there isn't enough room to get into the driveway. So Chance, my question is for you. If there is an emergency down there, one of the fire trucks or all your fire trucks have to get in, are the streets wide enough with vehicles and the fire equipment and even EMS to get down those streets?
Yes, they are wide enough. They conform to the village ordinance standard for the neighborhood design. One of the things that I did in my staff feedback on some of this was we did discuss, and this would be, it's not germane to whether we approve this or not, but we have already discussed the possibility of having enforced no parking on one or both sides of certain streets that we identify as being primary thoroughfares. Obviously, I voiced my concern that initially this is only going to have the one in and out, but the reality is that at some point Vine Street will connect. At some point, Greenview will connect to the east. So it may just be a temporary solution. But you're right, let's assume two cars per family. That's 400 and, my gosh, why am I drawing it? 480 cars will round up. You assume 2 trips a day. We're talking about at least, and it's gonna be more than 2. So we're talking about at least 1,000 trips per day in and out of the neighborhood. I mean, that's a fair amount of traffic. But when you also look at traffic in other places of the village, I don't know that it's any more or less. It's consistent. So this is no different than navigating any other neighborhood that has I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 32 feet is the street width. That's all right. So there'll be
That's actually 32 feet of pavement plus the gutters.
Yeah.
2 feet. So now you're at 36.
Yep.
Parking lanes typically 8 feet. So you got 20 feet clear.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not concerned about the street width.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, public safety equipment can get in there. The other issue I want to bring up, because I see this a lot, is individuals who have pets. And pets, dogs. And they get let out into a yard, not leashed, and pretty soon they're all over. And
What does this have to do with the subdivision?
because people have animals and they go into other subdivisions and they go into other people's property, like the Sullivans and anyone else here who's got property in Exeter. And we have to have some ordinances that people follow and that get enforced.
We do have the ordinance, and if they're not being enforced, that's for the police.
And it is the animals owner to, control their pet. That has nothing to do with this development in us approving it and zoning it. So.
I'm just bringing it up.
Right.
You.
Tree guy.
Yeah, you guys, Cody. So if Vine Street's gonna connect, would we be able to, because my fear is like, we're gonna get all the traffic coming down Vine Street and they're gonna fly. Would it be possible? I don't know I know Ian told me the right-of-way distance is roughly 65 feet, 66. Do we know if there's enough space to even connect that right there without tearing down the Francois Oil Company building? And if we don't know that right now, would that be able, would that connection be able to be moved over to the west further? Basically, make them come down to the end of Vine Street the way it is now and kind of have to go to the right and then down in. You could almost just move the road over to the west and put a lot there where that road is right now. Does that make sense? So
What you're saying makes sense. The problem is that we don't control the Francois property.
no, I get it. I'm just wondering, like, if they're willing to sell some of that, because right now it's,
Well, you could also.
doing
we could
nothing.
also, You know, if this was connected, you know, you could put a stop sign here or here. Or I know that up in Acres Woods and Bell West, they've strategically placed four-way stops at several intersections already.
yeah.
To, you know, control the traffic over there.
What has speed bumps been brought up as a topic?
Public Works doesn't like speed bumps. They're tough to plow over, so.
Yeah, our winter.
I would wanna,
Apparently kids on bikes are easier to plow over.
So you guys already said, talked, is there more? If there is,
I
great.
just have one question. Is South Vine really approved as an inlet and outlet?
There's an intervening property between where Vine Street ends right now at Fourth and where our development is.
So it's
Feeling was more,
future consideration?
yeah. Just looking at it holistically, it's like, well, Vine Street, it's kind of stubbed to the south. It should go through. It should be a connection. We don't control the property in between, so there's 150 feet of Francois property that needs to be addressed.
Right now, there's a structure, so it,
There's a structure, there is a gap, but there's a shed or something that's fairly close to this west edge.
you know, the distance lot line of the residential and the sidewall of the structure isn't large enough for any roadway.
Would handle the discussion between Francois and the developer and the village in order to secure.
We've already started that
Property.
conversation.
Okay.
Jeff
got it.
Repeat what you just said. You already talked with them?
We're already starting that conversation.
With Francois.
And what has been the reception?
Open to it. We just gotta work things out in detail.
The price tag?
We haven't discussed that.
I'd be really interested in that because I'm the residential property right next to Francois. That road would run right next to my bedroom window.
Trina, you gotta
Trina Rupert, 6th Street.
louder.
Trina Rupert, 6th Street. That is my property right next to Francois.
And can the gentleman that was in the light blue short, could you say, I couldn't hear you where your name either one again?
I'm Jeff Gotch. I live on Greenview Drive.
Okay, great. Okay. Question, is that property that we're talking about with Francois currently annexed to the village?
Yes.
Any pertinent issues we have to do with those and or are there other Green County / Exeter boundary site script issues?
There's no issues. This property is pretty well hemmed in. So everything to the immediate north and the immediate east for the top, about half is already in the village and has been for quite some time. From about halfway on the east south, it's all Greene County, town of Exeter, and it's all wetlands or conservancy residential. So there's no option for any ingress egress there. You couldn't build a road there without, significant issue. And then to the entirety of the west, you have the Badger Trail. And I spoke with the DNR, the DOT deferred to the DNR whether or not we could cross. I spoke with the DNR that would take care of it. And they said they absolutely would not work with a developer on an at-grade crossing, which means it'd have to be a tunnel or a bridge, which ain't gonna happen. And the only way they would consider working on a at-grade crossing, not a done deal, would be if it were part of a larger village project.
Next question. is that exact portion still part of the Ice Age Trail?
Never was part of the Ice Age Trail.
Boundaries jump around a little bit. I just want to make sure that currently that's only Badger State Trail.
Correct. It's the old railroad right of way.
So you're dealing with the railroad still.
No, the DOT has a 99-year lease with the railroad, and then they in turn lease it to the DNR.
Have you done title abstract search on that?
No,
Who's your title company you're using?
don't have one.
Who's your attorney?
Stafford and Rosenbaum.
On retainer by the hour or permanent staff assigned to you?
Yes.
Yes, which one?
Yes, kind of all three.
What are you getting at?
Well, I have substantial experience in this area in numerous communities throughout the Ice Age Trail corridor from one side of the county to the other and even out of the county, Green County, et cetera. Have an easement issue that's been going on for years in the township of Montrose. And you cannot guarantee, it's that 99-year lease issue, that the railroad will not reinsert their authority. Spoke a lot of things, that they have a substantial amount of power in the state. You don't believe me, just check on what's been going on in Madison with the same crossing issues with regard to Fish Hatchery Road. They gave the permission and then they revoked it as soon as it was getting put together after tons of money. Yeah, nearly.
The railroad can come back, but it's actually up to the Surface Transportation Board at the federal level if they go to break their lease.
I respectfully disagree. I've had experience.
Fair enough.
You cannot rely on.
Okay. I think we've hit our time limit. Pam, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that I still haven't heard, and I think that everybody here, Andrew Bell Sullivan, County Highway CC, sorry, that it would really be helpful to hear from you, Gary, and Chance, because you are the sort of resident, the local EMS experts, safety experts. What is different about this plan that suddenly makes it more appropriate and safe than the previous plan? So I want to push on that a little bit and see what criteria are you using to establish that? And then my second
We're
one,
reducing population in the area. It's still tight, it's still dense. But working through conversations again about addressing traffic engineering issues, parking, things like that, I think we can facilitate an evacuation and an emergency response simultaneously. Again, we're just going to have to achieve that through some traffic engineering, and that doesn't really play into the zoning or the plat approval, but we did reduce the population. And I think, again, if we can have a little bit of conversation about maybe some of those lots along the western border, reducing a little bit of density as well, I think that gets us to a good spot. I don't know if you feel differently, Gary.
No, I mean, and again, I'm not involved in EMS anymore. I am the Green County Emergency Management Director, but so, but I would defer to the local, and I think Chance hit the nail on the head. There's a little less population over there. I don't disagree with him. I think maybe if we can do something on the west side there, that would be better, but this is not the first high density neighborhood. It's the first high density neighborhood probably in the village, but there are these types of neighborhoods all over, and other fire departments, municipal fire departments have had to deal with those. I do still have concerns with the ingress and egress, but again, down the road, if we can work that problem out, that would be much better, I think, so.
thank you, that's super helpful. And then I just want to thank Debbie for raising the question about the ordinances. And I really look forward to the Village and Plan Commission opening the doors for revision in the future. So thank you.
Okay, so I would be looking for a motion.
Well, so I guess I'll ask the question. Is there something we do in with some of those lots on the west side maybe, or Jeff said he would listen to us and then see what we could do, so I don't know if you have any ideas or not.
Well, since my client's not here, he'll probably kill me in the morning, but if you guys, I heard you saying that, you know, the buffer wasn't enough. So what I'm proposing is that we do something like this and take these lots in addition and turn them into the blue lots. So you got a full block of buffer zone transition. We still have our high density away from all the neighbors. We have the low density and then a medium and then a high. And it'll reduce a few more lots, but that's what I would offer up to get this thing off of. I really don't want to have it delayed another month and have to come back again and not have made any sense. I'm saying we made some progress before the meeting. I'm proposing this and I'm asking that would be the, when we come to the board meeting.
So what's your proposal again then?
I would just convert these lines that I drew into medium density lots.
Which would take the lots down to how many?
Well, if, it's gonna be, I'd have to do the math.
200-ish. Maybe reduced by 19, is that a
Well,
fair
I
guess?
wouldn't say that. I mean, I'd say you probably would lose 1/3 of them. But whatever's drawn, maybe lose a third. I would venture to guess you'd still be over 200, but you'd be down. So that's where I would say we.
I think getting a little stuck on colors too, and since we jumped ahead to the preliminary plat from the zoning,
Sorry.
I went through and I looked at all of the different square footages of all the lots and I broke it out. And just because it's painted yellow on there, doesn't mean that it's at 6,000 square feet. There's some of them going up to 9,000 more square feet. The largest lot in that plat is over 22,000 square feet. So they're not all the smallest postage stamp, whatever lot. There's a mixture in there. Yes, there are some that are exactly 6,000, but more often.
You're saying within the yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a mixture still?
I have it broken out.
Okay.
Yeah, you do have in your letter.
You know, there are, I forget exactly how many, better than 10 maybe of the high density that would actually qualify as medium density. And there's, 5 to 10 of the medium density that may qualify as high. So it's not just the minimum lot size,
But all the nice straight lines.
they're very nice.
They all look very uniform.
Yeah, because you've got here 124 lots are exactly 6,000 square feet and then,
That's where optically, I guess, looking at just the map,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you would do spot zoning and your
No,
zoning map,
Yeah.
you drive the map maker crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways, if that's, that would be what I would say we would do.
So, and I think I know the answer to this question, but so for everybody that butts this on the east side of this, the 20-foot buffer that's in there definitely was one of the concerns at the last meeting. And I guess just a general question, everybody's satisfied with the 20-foot buffer based on the conversation that we had earlier, is that correct? More or less, I mean,
That's what I heard.
We liked it.
Yeah.
We would have preferred it to be more.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
liked.
Well,
They're-
yeah.
They're giving us something.
yeah, this is kind of, I mean,
That's,
Yeah, we
All right.
had wondered if there was a trail going in that buffer zone or not.
So then the trail would be on the other side.
We're saying we're giving a 20-foot buffer, how the village maintains it. I believe the Sullivans were suggesting it was a trail, a grass trail that was kind of in one of theirs. I really don't care what it is. It could be just the place where the trees all grow, as far as I'm concerned. I guess it's a total setback. There's no issues with any of the trees along the fence line being cut down because we're just starting the development that much further behind. So that's the only promises that I would give, is that we gave up 20 feet on the east side as a
And
no impact strip.
Not just east and north.
Yeah, all the way around. How the village maintains the future. I mean, if enough people walk through there, then they'll probably make their own trail. Right?
Like the village, is the village going to then on that buffer require that those are recorded deeds that are in perpetuity? Or is it just gonna be like he said, exact words, I don't care what the village does, it's up to you guys?
It's on the plat as an outlot.
It'll be an outline of the buffer in the back of each block, is what you said, is what people.
It's on the plat as a block.
Chainsaw that.
All right. So what action do we have to take on this?
Mike, could I ask a question?
Bonnie,
I didn't see your hand up, Connie. Go ahead.
I'm not there.
That's why I couldn't see it.
Yeah, that's true. I have a question. Where is your client? This is a very important meeting. And why isn't Mr. Petrie there?
He's not available tonight, but I believe he's online. I don't. So you want him to chime in, he can.
I don't see him online.
He's well involved in
He gave
Jeff's
me authority
agent.
to represent him
So-
tonight, and that's
Yeah.
really all that the village requires, so
Right.
we're here to do business and get a deal done and move
All
on.
right, so
I didn't think it was important. He should be there.
Want me to, okay, so regarding, we're on 5.
number 5 now.
You would be recommending approval of the rezoning application to the village board. Is what, and whether that's as prescribed or with the adjustments that Mr. Lincolnheld has designated, that's up to your guys' discretion, I guess.
I still didn't answer the question. Is the village?
We can discuss that at a different moment. It's not the right time for that.
I guess I disagree, because I've seen these pissing matches
Mike,
between DNR and landowners, and property owners, where they say, well, this guy said the meeting on public record, I don't care, it's up to the village, you guys are not making it in. So at this point, you're waiting for.
Sir, you've used your time. Thank you. So I will make a motion to approve the rezoning application for, I have to put in this 2025-13 as presented.
Recommended to the board, right?
Yeah, to recommend to the board.
is that with this? new
I'll second.
adjustments?
That's the plat map. That's separate from the zoning.
So I've got a motion by myself, seconded by Gary. The discussion by the committee.
Just want to say this is just for the zoning, not plat map. It's just to allow those zoning districts.
I have a question for you, sir. We're talking colors here right now. You already give us a few more high densities on your map. How about the purple?
We're gonna leave the purple alone, but I'll go across the street, I'll do the medium there.
That would be the purple.
Purple is the low density lot size. I would transition to medium density and then the high density.
That be on our next item.
I'll have a new map for the village board.
For the board meeting, yeah.
Any additional discussion by the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me.
82.
Passes on a 4-1,
3-2.
3-2.
Rich.
Who was the other no?
Larry.
Larry, okay, thank you. Passes on a 3-2.
switch the map. Talking about that.
Okay.
Preliminary plat application 2025-13.
Same thing with streets. As mentioned before, we have a 66-foot right of way, which is village standard. We have sidewalk on both sides of the street. We have a 32-foot paved street width. We have 2-foot gutter on each side. So we have a 36-foot wide drivable width. If you take into account 8-foot parking lane, that leaves you with a 20-foot clear zone in the middle for emergency vehicle access. This is all typical village standard streets. Our minimum pavement Thickness would meet minimum village requirements. We have an outlot here of stormwater. The Sullivans commented on the sandy soils. Yes, I just sent you guys, finally got the soil tester results. There is some good sand about 8 to 10 feet down in the stratum. That will play into how our detention works. It's likely that DNR will require some infiltration. So that the detention will be addressed, obviously meeting DNR requirements. We do have this existing right of way here that connects just north of Sugar Avenue on Park Street. It's already platted. It was platted as a street right of way to go through to the west. We will be constructing that street as part of the, basically on city property that's already been dedicated. We have the connection that we've all talked about for Greenview potentially across the trail. We have the hopefully connection to Vine Street. The rest of it is sewer starts at our cul-de-sac. Next here at water main loop throughout. We are proposing that we would not have any sidewalk south of this lot along this side of the street. It's adjacent to the nature wetland area, and there's really nobody to split, if you will. Plus, it's within the the buffer zone. After we shoved this over for the green space on the east side, we got close to the 75-foot wetland setback. So we're proposing, people can still walk across and they can still, utilize the nature area just without a sidewalk along the street. So we were just proposing to not have a sidewalk on this side of the street next to the wet. I did draw prior to the meeting. I bet you maybe can see it, but the red lines on here are the actual existing tree lines as surveyed. The blue line was the outline of the farm field. I guess I kind of drew that just for my own education after walking the south line to see where the trees were at in relation to the property. Generally, the trees are south of the property. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same as the color map, just public improvements. Oh, one last thing, the stormwater for this middle, we would actually extend it down to Greenview. We have to partially reconstruct Greenview to get to a storm sewer down here at Greenview and Park, which continues then further east. So there wouldn't be any overland discharge out of this. Down here, there would be an overland discharge to the south based on the ground elevations. I talked to the Sullivans yesterday about potentially doing a level spreader down here, which is a DNR approved device, which kind of allows the flow to, kind of doesn't come shooting out of a pipe. It kind of spreads it out a little bit. So I'm restating that today, so it's on the minutes.
In which block were you not gonna put sidewalk on?
Just right here from this right in this zone here, we were going to we're proposing to not put sidewalk on that side.
Otherwise, sidewalks would be on both sides of.
Sidewalks on both sides of everybody that has a lot would have a sidewalk. There'd still be sidewalk on the street.
Yeah.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yeah.
it was just, you could cross and walk up the street.
Yeah.
Really, and then this, being the preliminary plat, this is the blueprint for what we would move forward with for engineering plans, final plat, coming back to the board. Just it kind of sets the blueprint for how we're gonna develop. Any specific questions on the design?
Just to reiterate again, the uh, parkland was, what you've got dedicated there at 14.6 acres. And then the other is going to be fee in lieu of, was the plan.
Yeah,
Correct.
our total requirement will come down a little bit with the lots adjustment, so we're gonna be pretty dang close.
Reviewing some of the comments quick.
I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat application with the
I'm gonna recommend that to the board.
recommend to the board, I'm sorry. With the recommendations included in the June 11th to 2025 letter from Ian.
See.
And MSA, yeah.
Second.
It'd be the June 4th letter.
Discussion by the committee.
This is the preliminary plat, so when it comes back to the board, so the preliminary plat, so the recommendations coming to the board, am I assuming that we're doing the medium density around the edges as you shown before, or, okay?
Yeah, I get, maybe that should be the other part of the motion with the changes discussed tonight, so, I mean.
Yeah, I commit to that.
Yeah.
I will have the new maps.
Yeah, because, I mean, the board will be voting on what he gets us for new maps, so, yeah.
So with that, the map will come to the board. Make that decision anyway. So. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi.
Opposed? That passes on a 4-1.
For clarification, this will be Monday night, so I'll turn this around tomorrow. I will have will not be available to be in attendance live and in person. The president is okay if I don't know how much more rehash we need to do Monday night, but I'll be online to do it all if needed.
Yeah, that's perfect. If you can be online, that'd be great. Just in case the board has any
I just
questions.
can't physically be here. Can't get my wife and dog back to my house and then come back to this meeting in time to. My wife already told me she'd kill me.
Right. Yeah, that's completely fine. Well,
Thank you.
Item number 7, conditional use permit application for 807 River Street.
You guys had already discussed this. This would be a beer garden conditional use permit for Sugar River Lanes. This is just a document to be signed and recorded. I just wanted to put it on the agenda so that you guys could approve it and make sure that all the conditions and everything that they talked about are incorporated as was approved last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for River Lanes.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, moving along. Item number 8, conditional use permit application 2025-16 for 127 West Main Street.
Which place on West Main Street, J&M Bar. This is not a new beer garden. This is just formalizing it, the CUP process that we're using. My comments are there. I did notice a couple of things where they're not in compliance or appear to be out of compliance with the existing beer garden ordinance. The application listed the hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. Beer gardens have to be closed by midnight. The rear beer garden is not fully enclosed. There is opening to the rear parking lot. That's also a violation of current ordinance. Otherwise, the property and the beer garden look great. No complaints or anything there. One other requirement, since we are doing this conditional use permit now, spoke with Rick, the village attorney, and for this property and 2 other properties, one we'll be talking about tonight, one we'll be talking about on the 25th. Beer gardens are actually located on separate lots than the primary business and primary structure. And so Rick wanted to make sure that there was some kind of certification guarantee from the owner of the separate lot to protect both the business and the process to make sure that the beer garden could exist. And so that could either be a combination of lot, a lease agreement. But that's it. So I relayed all that information to the applicant. I heard back from everybody saying that they should have that information, but I haven't got in front of me more than one.
So then we have a public hearing on this. Yes. All right. So I do this. All right. Public hearing. I'm gonna open the public hearing for conditional use permit at 7:13 p.m.
I'm gonna read this once, and let's just assume I say it the next 3 times too, so that I don't have to repeat it 4 times tonight. So for all the public hearings tonight, the public hearing was published in the Postmaster Recorder on May 22nd and 29th. I've included the affidavit of publication as part of the agenda packet. It was also posted at Village Hall, Belleville Public Library, and on the Village of Belleville website on June 6th.
Participation regarding this hearing.
I have nobody signed up for this public hearing. This is J&M Spar at 1.
I can respond to that if you have any questions. My name is Jeff Sarbacher, by the way. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Okay. Any other comments? Are there any other comments?
My favorite part, by the way.
And are there any other comments? Hearing none, I now close the public hearing at 7:14. Discuss and consider the conditional use permit authorizing beer garden at property located 127 West Main Street. No, it's Jane.
So I'll start. Is it my understanding that the hours are non-compliant and then it's not fully enclosed?
Yeah, we can comply. Midnight's fine.
Yeah.
As far as the ownership's concerned. We also do have a lease. So we drew up a lease. So we got that. And then they asked you to have that fence in the back. So I have contacted the fencing contractor and it should be fairly simple. So
that.
Yeah, the only other thing I forgot to mention before is that in our ordinance, it states that the rules for beer gardens has to be posted in minimum.
Yeah, and we can do that as well.
Yeah, cool. Like I said, otherwise it probably looks wonderful, but yeah.
So all we're doing tonight is recommending,
You're gonna-
you guys will draft a
You're gonna approve the application and then next month we'll approve the
resolution.
resolutions, yes.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the application for the beer garden for 27 West Main Street.
It's actually like 120, well, 121 or 127.
We've got 127 in our records, but we know it's you, so. Yeah.
Entertain just adding this conditional on.
Yeah.
being code compliant.
Yeah, condition upon all the items in Ian's letter dated June 11th.
I'll second that.
Gary, second by Chance. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Apparently.
I prefer a cocktail garden.
That's semantics. Chance.
And conditional use permit application 27 West Main Street. This was catching me, the 1 versus the 27.
Messed up everybody, actually.
This is for Johnny O's Pizzeria.
Yep, so there's actually two different components to this application, because there's two different beer garden locations. One of the locations is actually on 27 West Main Street, right in front of the building with the black fencing, and has been in operation for the last almost year. The second one is the proposed beer garden extension into the back, which I think I just made it 23 West Main Street. But it's, if you take the alley straight back, it's that where the pad used to be and where the blacktop currently is. The pad will become again, but yeah. Like I said, nothing exists there right now. So just John wanted me to make the distinction that regardless of what you guys decide or conditions you place on the rear, he wants to ensure that kind of the section A or the front beer garden is considered separately. Because we know that any decision made would be contingent upon it being compliant once inspected in the rear.
Two separate CUPs, the front one and the back one.
No, it would be a single CUP. But if Dale, he said he was willing to apply for it separately. Hoping that isn't necessary, but.
I guess I'm just of the opinion on front of the building, it's just like a little patio.
Yeah.
Not really.
Because it's outside, it's still considered a beer garden.
No, and then, yeah, like I said, nothing really
Semantics.
exists in the back. And I kind of listed out all the potential issues at the back, but the front is completely compliant, doing great. No issues there.
What do we need to do to make the back compliant?
So there was no lighting plan or anything submitted. So any lighting out there would just have to meet the conditions in the zoning code. The fence would also need to be installed meeting the conditions of the zoning code. I know I spoke to John and he was talking about doing a minimum 4-foot high fence for the majority of it, to completely fence it in, having the required signage on the interior, and then possibly some movable but very large planters in lieu of fence, because there's issues with being able to move snow and everything when the beer garden, something that was movable, but not by a single human being, I guess. And then the biggest issue from my review standpoint would be the ensured access to neighboring properties through their easement, the rear of the property, and getting alcohol to and from the beer garden. And I can definitely let John speak more on this, but he has some signage made up He's talked about how he's gonna complete that with staffing, painting kind of a crosswalk, and so on and so forth. So I don't know if you want to.
This is a sign for like the doors, but then it's. So like that would be hung in the beer garden. This would be on like the door to leave the beer garden or leave my building. A server would have to run all the alcohol between the beer garden and the building.
It's clunky and cumbersome.
The other option is like a beer cart in there, but it all depends how busy it is, but it would only be, my patio would only be allowed beer back there when I have a server staff for the back patio.
Having a hard time with the map, you know, trying to identify what is what in this.
Good, I'm not doing that.
So help me out here. I'm
Go get the actual copy of the map if you want, actually, so you don't have to look at it digitally. I should have brought that down.
so there's a red box rectangle in here. What is that? Not the beer garden? Is it?
Is notice yet? I guess we're noticed. Yeah.
I'll get you when we're done here talking.
Thanks, guys.
It's my understanding that would be pea gravel fiber, kind of like a game area where you put like bags and that kind of stuff. Not like the seating area. The seating area would be kind of the blue box stuff here, or the asphalt concrete mats, picnic tables, other seating.
Sorry, can you just repeat that again, Ian, please?
Yeah, so the red box area is supposed to be like a pea gravel a game area. So we'd have bags and whatever else there, but not necessarily seating. The seating would go in that blue box area, which would be right now it's just dirt, but it would be either asphalt or concrete, so hard surface.
That's this part.
For frame of reference, where's the restaurant itself?
The restaurant would be where you're sitting.
Okay.
And
visualize this.
The exit out the rear of the restaurant would be in the northeast corner of the building.
That's where the door is now, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the restaurant. Garage area. Yeah. Okay, now I follow. It's not the scale.
Oh, yeah, so there, it's bordered by garages to the east and west, to the river, to the north. So I think it's right where it pops out there to the west underneath that red box is where you'd have the entrance, and it would be connected by kind of like a zebra paint crosswalk, whatever, to the rear door of the establishment.
You own it all though, correct?
I lease it.
At least.
Yeah.
And it's all one contiguous property.
Yeah, he provided me a copy of the lease, so we're good there.
So like. Restaurant. This would be that gap. Back in here.
Well.
Well, I was just gonna say, so we're still in, we haven't opened the public hearing yet on this one, right? Yeah.
We'll just talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
You want to open the public hearing and then we can continue the discussion.
All right, let's hear the public has to say, because,
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna open the public hearing. At Time is it? 7:25.
Yeah, that thing I said earlier.
All right. Public participation. Go ahead.
At page 25B, West Main.
Mhm.
I reviewed the staff report. They have certain conditions, but I'm curious as to why, you would say that Roman numeral 8, Ian. The beer garden shall be attached to the main business premises, and access to the outdoor premise shall only be allowed through the main building. So why didn't you include a condition for that on your conditions?
It would be through the main building. The biggest issue is having alcohol transfer, which is why he was talking about having staff go in between.
But it's supposed to be fenced.
It will be fenced.
So if the access is through the main building and it needs to be fenced, how are they gonna achieve that?
The access for the alcohol is the main building. The service alcohol is through the main building. It will travel from the main building with a licensed operator to the rear beer garden where it'll be served. Alcohol cannot transfer with patrons back.
You know, and I want to go in beer garden, I have a bartender hand it out to me.
You're like a concierge. Think of it like a concierge, carry your bags for you.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know, to my knowledge, I don't think we have anything set up like that in this town as far as a beer garden. I don't think that there's any provision for that in this ordinance for that.
We'll see.
I mean, we had the bowling alley and we made them do it a certain way. We had this behind here and it's set up a certain way. And we have the dam bar set up similarly. And, J&M went to a lot of modification to try to meet their obligation. I don't think that, that seems to stretch to me. I would think that, to follow the precedent, you'd have to have a fence from that enclosed, fully enclosed in your beer garden. I think that just seems a little too novel of an interpretation on your part. But I guess that's all I'd have. I would say that I don't see that. A reading of the ordinance. Well, I'd say.
Thank you.
Does spouse feel bring a beverage to their
So
spouse?
I would like to remind everybody this is a public hearing in which people can make comments. It's not a question and answer. You can make a statement. But any questions at this time of the meeting would be considered rhetorical and you shouldn't expect an answer to it. We can have a question and answer if the chair deems it later when we talk about the actual item, but not during the public hearing. Okay, well, if you'd like to make an actual statement, like in a public hearing, we'd ask that you come to the podium, state your name, give your, you'd have up to 3 minutes to make a statement and then we would move on. It's just like a public hearing.
Okay. Are there any other public comments? Any other comments? Are there any other comments? Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing at 7:29 PM. You were looking some stuff, Chance.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
So there is drawing on here for a removable or portable fence in front.
I guess so if you
That's the side to the restaurant,
Yeah,
correct?
I mean, if you look at the ordinance, I understand the argument and concern, but the way I interpret this, the beer garden shall be attached to the main business premise. That's the operative word in the ordinance. is one contiguous parcel that he leases. So I think it's cumbersome and that's problematic for him, that the way I would interpret this. Yes. If it goes awry, it falls on enforcement, and the cup gets pulled back. I mean, that is what it is, so. Yeah, that's all I got.
So just saying on the drawing with the fence on the side of the restaurant, which is where the server would come out, right? And then have to open a gate or something in the fence in order to deliver the drinks, right?
Yes.
Sets up, like you said, if it gets busy and it's lucrative, he sets up a beer cart back there. That's his operation and not.
Also, length about it and all that was kind of set up for safety and access for other users of that alley. So safety of patrons and everything. Don't want people going back and forth to the bar.
No, but I mean, that's no different than people right now could go back and forth through the alleys and come in the back door.
Yeah.
Orland's, J&M.
Right.
There's a back door around the damn bar. I mean, so I understand the concern, but yeah, I think, again, to the gentleman's point, the word in the ordinance that really applies here is premise, and it's one contiguous parcel. I guess on that, if you'll entertain a motion, I'll make a motion to approve the cup for the beer garden at 27 West Main, contingent on complying with ordinance requirements for fencing, barrier, and lighting.
Second.
Motion by Chance, second by Deborah. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion passes. On our agenda tonight is comprehensive plan amendment and rezoning application 2025-15.
So
West Lot 23.
it's a newly purchased parcel. The owner would like to rezone to be able to make the best use of the lot to construct facility. I can let you go into it more because it's pretty, yeah. I kind of liken it to like a Kiva, but
Fitness and recreation facility with a gymnasium and then maybe some opportunity for some fitness space.
Well, how many square feet? I think this would be.
We're under,
Wrestling with that.
working with architects right now in terms of, what does the communities need in terms of one gymnasium versus two gymnasiums versus some fitness equipment, and then where does parking follow it up?
Evaluating between 20,000 square feet and 30,000. And that's it. And what's the address? What's that? What's the address or you're guys talking about? It's out in the business park. Oh, it's something new. Yeah.
It's on James Avenue. It'd be north of where the UW clinic is. That's where that parcel is. It's considered, it doesn't have a specific address at the moment. That's why we call it
That's why you did say that.
Bell West Lot 23, yeah.
Are you thinking you're gonna have like basketball tournaments, things like that here?
Okay.
Or as I tell my adult friends with children's sport ball contest?
Yeah, that is the hope.
It'll be what's the place in Verona as you come in and
The back.
Back. yeah,
Verona.
similar to that, but on a smaller scale.
We need to have two public hearings on this just because we gotta, we're gonna have to amend the comprehensive plan to make this zoning change. So Your first public hearing is specifically about the amendment to the comprehensive plan. The second one is simply on the rezone.
All right, so I will,
Real quick, which lot, 23 is which lot? I'm trying to look on the map.
Down, sorry, that one?
It's the tip of the nose.
yeah.
If this is BW,
And what's the current zoning?
As Wayne and.
Okay.
It's just that names.
business park to general commercial.
I mean, it's arguably a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up here.
Yeah. So what do we need to do first?
So we're gonna public
We're
hearing.
gonna have some public hearings.
Yeah, more public hearings. All right.
Go for it, Mike.
So I will now open the public hearing at 7:36 PM.
I posted that notice.
Right, I love it. Any public participation, comment?
No one signed up for this public hearing. But do your thing.
And you get to hear me again then. Are there any other comments? Are there any other comments? Are there any other comments? Hearing none, I close the public hearing at 7:36 PM. Any discussion?
I was gonna say, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-05. That's, we approve that.
Yeah,
That's,
you approved this one.
that's for the board.
It will go to the board, but we're not recommending, we're just approving this resolution.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed.
Did you say the second one is gonna be in 2 weeks then? For the,
Yeah, we're having that special.
the special one, I know for
Yeah.
the,
Did that one more beer garden.
yep.
Sorry, yep.
Okay, so item C under,
Oh, we're on the,
you ready?
C.
Yes, we did close the hearing. Yep. All right, sorry. Got off track. So I'm gonna open the public hearing for parcel number there at 7:38 PM.
yeah, I posted that thing again. Yay.
Any public participation?
I have nobody signed up for this public hearing this time.
Are there any other comments?
I only, and I'm sure it probably doesn't pertain at this point, but parking.
We'll talk about
That's okay.
Yeah.
I want this to be successful, but parking could tank it.
Are there any other comments? Are there any other comments? I now close the public hearing at 7:38 PM.
This one would be a recommendation to the board, right? Yep, recommendation to the board on the rezoning.
I will. I will make a motion, there it is, thank you, to rezone this parcel from business park to general commercial district.
Second.
Recreation village.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Go for it.
Be fun out there. Let's see. Item number 11, discuss, consider planning and zoning policy 001.
Okay, so this came to you guys 2 plan commissions ago. The last plan commission, the agenda was too packed, so we pushed it. But this is just kind of to relieve the future agendas of the really, really easy stuff and make it so that people putting up like a small shelter or something like that on a property don't have to wait for a plan commission meeting. I mean, I went through and I didn't steal it from anybody. I wrote it from scratch. So
I know, I tried, plagiarism is a good thing when it comes to these kind of things, so.
Yeah, so I kept it very simple, you know, really
the only ability I would have to approve anything falls under 5, the under section 5 applicability. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. So all single and 2-family structures, that is already the case. Me and the building inspector already have the ability to do that. Site plan for any commercial, industrial, or public institution, so long as the improvements to the site do not exceed 5,000 square feet, do not require approval of a stormwater management plan, do not result in abnormal use of village utility infrastructure, and do not result in abnormal, contentious, dangerous, or otherwise dubious use of the site. Plan of operation is another thing for a new business or extension of existing business, so long as the application conforms to all applicable zoning regulations in the village zoning code. This one I kind of set up more for the ordinance that rewrite that you guys are going to be reviewing, because right now we don't have a plan of operation, but hopefully we will. And that's just going to be something that any new business in the village would submit, similar to some of the information provided in a site plan, letting you know hours of operation, type of business, type of use, number of employees, all that good stuff. So we can tell if something conforms to an ordinance when it moves in. Because right now we have it zoned certain things, but if a business moves in, oh, there they are. So temporary use in conformance to the village zoning code for up to 6 months with 1 additional 6-month extension. So if for any reason somebody needs like a temporary construction for a 6-month period or even up to a year, they can have a temporary construction staging area. We have similar things in the ordinance, but this is just kind of a flat. And then any sign permits, which is pretty much the case, but just to formalize it. And then there's a whole long line further on of things that I cannot do myself.
Would you be submitting some kind of a report to us or the board on, you know, what you have approved?
I totally could.
You know, just as like a little bullet list or something so that we know what's going on.
Yeah, or staff reports for
Probably like quarterly or something or quarterly or something. Yeah. I don't know what time frame.
I think that would be reasonable, just as a good transparency and not even that, just like a good communication on flow of information.
So I'm not trying to overstep it all. It's just like the perfect example. And I think what really got me off my ass to kind of do this was the shelter at the pool. So the guy waited for 3 months and had to go through the site plan process of plan commission for a shelter next to a playground.
No, I don't think you're overstepping at all. I think just that feedback, whatever, just, I think that protects you a little bit too, that way the community. Well, Ian's out here just going rogue and doing whatever, and we don't know about it, so.
No, I'm
Probably is, but that's okay. You know, at least we'll
I only go rogue like 20% of the time.
But you know what I mean? Yeah, you know how that's gonna get bent if somebody doesn't like a decision you make.
Something very similar for CDA with stuff, so.
I'm fine with this. We've talked about this.
Yep. I'll make a motion that we approve the Village of Belleville Planning and Zoning Policy number 001.
Second. Additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now,
Adjournment.
getting close. Communications and miscellaneous business. Announcements, statements, or questions for members? Go ahead.
I have a question for the board, people on it. What's the status on childcare, Carl Avenue?
So this is kind of, so there's the one portion of it, which is a container, which they were working with me on and off for a while. Like I'd work with them, then get ghosted, work with them, get ghosted. And finally I sent a letter to him saying, if you don't move the container by this date, we'll seek injunctive relief. I was getting ready to get the village attorney involved in everything and just basically have it towed out of there. And they put in for a conditional use permit application, similar to what it would be for Big Cat's barbecue, because it's still considered the temporary accessory structure. So they will come before you next month.
In July, that's on July's agenda.
So I'll document everything in my review. I mean, I think at the time, the father who owns the property originally bought it was trying to work in good faith. He wanted to put up a storage structure for his construction business. But he can't do that there. The biggest issue being not the property or any restrictions on building, but other than an easement, there's a utility easement there for sewer and water that stretches all the way back behind the Riverbill and services those three properties with sewer and water. And there's just not enough room to be able to build anything. And so that kind of shot down all his plans of what he was going to do. So we'll see. But the front part of the building, the daycare, like I was talking about the plan of operation, we don't have anything like that yet. I know nothing about the daycare other than it's a daycare and they said they were going to open there. If we had a plan of operation, then that would be one thing where we would know those things. So
Is it the lady that's got the bilingual daycare out here in the West End?
no idea.
I don't believe that's the same person.
Besides the fact that it's a daycare, they're planning to speak 2 languages. They plan to go there. I know nothing.
You don't know, say.
I think it's a really good idea. I think it's cool, but.
And we are meeting them 2 weeks.
Yeah, so the next thing, I'm sorry, I've got it in the agenda, but it's the 25th. There's only one public hearing. It's the a public hearing for the conditional use permit for the hot garden so they can have their beer garden. And we had a little bit of miscommunication and we're trying to get that approved before the 4th of July for them so that they can, hopefully if the state comes through with their liquor license or their beer brewery license, they can go ahead and open.
I asked him, they were down and inspected today, but
Oh, that's,
it's about, he'd like to open by Friday, but he thinks it's about a 1% chance that he'll get everything by Friday. So
yeah, and I'm hopefully at least by the 4th. Yeah, it's a 2-fer, isn't it? Okay, we'll talk about that.
That
Okay,
makes sense.
All right.
Make that meeting because.
I said, okay, it's happening.
that's fine. I think I had enough people saying they would be at that 25th meeting to make quorum, so
I'll be virtual.
that's okay, as long as I'm
gonna try
and
to,
we're gonna try and make it,
I'm gonna try to save all these CUPs on here, the documents.
Yeah.
that it gets cleaned up.
if I could make one just random comment, but nothing that was tonight. We got a lot of housing coming. I live in town of Montreal, so I don't really have a, fight here. But I was in a meeting or on a bus trip one day to a car show. There's people, a bunch of investors there on that bus trip. And they said what Sun Prairie did was absolutely brilliant. They sent their administrator, zoning people to City of Madison meetings. The people laid their cards out, they see everything's going on. And the city, oh, no, we can't do that. They follow them out of the room and say, hey, I work for City of Sun Prairie. I seen your plans. I think we have land for you. And it was like a vacuum. Sucked people out of Madison to Sun Prairie. That's just something for you guys to think about as far as recruiting business. Cost you really little or nothing to go to those meetings and you already see their plans. They lay their plans out. And at that point, I think that may work for the village of Belleville. So it just random for you guys. Here was a good point for you guys all to hear, and you guys talk over and say, he's.
All right, let me adjourn the meeting and then.
Okay.
So I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Next meeting.